All right, everybody, welcome. My name is Stephen D. Kelly. This is the Stephen D. Kelly Show, the one and only on the one and only Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It's now 6:01 p.m., August 22nd, 2024. You know, I was with all the Gary nonsense and stuff, numerologically speaking. I was looking at this date. If you were born on this date, August 22nd, 2024, you would be a 202. A 2. You'd be nothing but a 2, which is basically means you're bipolar. Fun with numbers, yes. Yes. All right, the title of tonight's show, keeping along lines, we are into our fourth week of War with the Masons, we'll just call it that. Well, obviously, it's grown into something much grander. Let's see, tonight's show, last week we had, Fat Fingers of Satan. Or no, that was Gary Grinberg, Fat Fingers of Satan. That's right, better not forget him. And well, today we have Satan's influencers. Now, I know I could get a lot more graphic with my titles, but I gotta tell you, though, I'm learning a lot. I'm happy to have you guys with me on this journey. But, you know, as I've said before, when we got into this whole Mason crap, you know, it started out with that Dr. Marvel idiot trying to push his little club on one of the spaces that I was on. You know, I'm pretty new to all this spaces and all this, influencer stuff. Everybody wants to be an influencer. Well, anyway, I kind of got in the way of that. Along comes the Grand Poobah of the local Mexican mafia, or Masons. And anyway, things got real. But eventually it led me to Gary, of course, and I got to learn all about Gary's network and a little bit more about the entire structure of what's going on. And, you know, we do a lot of research on these people. I've told you guys we got everything. I mean, it's like I've got a lot of information on everybody we're going to talk about. But here's the thing. From the get-go, all of this smelled like mafia. And, of course, what you're going to find out as we dig deep into this stuff, because I know you think this is just a small thing, and why are we messing with this, and why aren't we focusing on Occupy the Getty and saving those children? Well, ultimately, this is not a small thing. It's actually a very big thing, and it has a lot to do with mass corruption of children, degradation, and human trafficking. We'll get into that tonight, but yes, this little war I've started here has tumbled us headfirst into a massive human trafficking ring. That's right. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to try to lay it out for you. And, you know, if I wanted to get headlines, I could have easily said something about the Tate brothers getting arrested for human trafficking yesterday. We'll get to that. The point is, you have to understand why these people do what they do, what their job is, what the effect of their efforts are, who it benefits. Now, obviously, in the Occupy the Getty mission, you know, we're not just trying to take down Gordon Getty and Gavin Newsom and these silly-ass humans. No, we're taking down Satan. We have no illusion about the grandiose nature of the enemy that we're dealing with. You know, hello, Satan. Satan and all his minions and all their power and all their glory. We're dealing with that. And there is no small Satan that we want to overlook. It's not like, well, you know, these Masons or these Shriners or these whatever they are, you know, Knights of Columbus. They're just little Satanists, you know, Jesuits, whatever. You know, you got all these little groups you like to pick on. The Jews. Anyway, it turns out it's all a big manipulated thing and it's all connected. Now, again, before I get into these groups here or these individuals, I just want to tease you a little bit. I want to say that it's not just the mafia, it's not just the Russians, it's not just the Jews, it's not just the Khazarian mafia, it's not just the influencers, it's not just the Bitcoin, it's not just the NFTs, it's not the blockchain. any of that stuff. Oh, it's not the sports book. It's not the gambling. It's not the numerology. It's not the astrology. It's not prostitution. Well, I'll tell you, it's all these things. But you know what else it is? It's Mossad. It's Satan. It's a Mossad operation that we discussed last week called Sayanim, Sayinam, something like that. Sayanam. I don't pretend to be an expert on these Mossadian terms, but anyway, Gary has admitted one of these agents, one of these sleeper agents for Mossad that goes out there and does the work for Mossad. Now, in this case, what is the work for Mossad? It's lots of things. It's human trafficking. It's money laundering. It's the corruption of the American youth. It's the destruction of the country. But you know, the corruption of the American youth is a very complex thing. That means corruption of the young males and corruption of the young females. And obviously, the young females, those are the ones that are most valuable in the human trafficking. So we'll learn that the corruption of the young males is important to help enable and facilitate the human trafficking. Because you're going to see that these influencers, over and over and over again, you know, they'll call them in the media, they'll say they're misogynist. No, they're not just misogynists. Half the time they're gay, they're woman haters, they treat women like whores, and they turn women into whores, and they traffic them. And that is a major portion of this entire scheme. It's not just a scheme of the Masons or the Satanists or the people that want to promote Bitcoin or this little group that we're dealing with here, Club 33 or whatever bullshit. Ultimately, it is the Khazar Mafia. It is our enemy, and it is our enemy working out in the open, in public, with a grand scheme to pervert and destroy this country. So let's talk about how they do that using these so-called influencers, which are basically people on social media that collect followers, that have great followers, and young, usually and stupid, impressionable followers. And these people tend to like to emulate and repeat and become programmed by the shit spewed by these influencers. Now, I myself am an influencer. I came to realize, you know, I got invited to a party a while back. It was a Hollywood party. That's a whole nother story. But I walked around this party looking at the celebrities and stuff all over the place. And I tried to figure out, what the heck am I doing here? And I sat down with some dude that owned a vineyard. And he offered me a glass of his, you know, wine from his vineyard. And I asked him, I said, you have any idea why these people here would invite me to this gig? He says, well, you're probably an influencer. And I'm like, ding, holy crap. And yeah, that was because I had like 30-something thousand people following me on Facebook in one single group, not to mention all the other groups I was running and all the other stuff I was running. Yeah, I was an influencer. I was on TV. I was doing all this stuff. What kind of influencer? Well, let's see. Political, I suppose. Occupy the Getty, I suppose. All these things, you know, possibly even you could say, well, you know, Christian. I've been certainly been accused of that as of late. These damn Christians. Yeah, well, you know what? I'm thankful. I'm actually, of all the crap that I've had thrown at me the last week or so by this scary guy, the one thing that could certainly say I'm proud of and to wear is the label of Christian. Yes, I'm a Christian, you stupid fucking Satanist. Anyway, so let's see, where do we start? Now, the Tate story is certainly the big story, and we should start from there. But I want to lead into it because there's other guys that are less grandiose than Tate, and there's actually guys that are more grandiose than the Tates. We're going to talk about all of them, and we're going to look at the connections between all of them, because the one thing we're learning is that they all seem to be anti-Israel. They all seem to be very vocally anti-Semitic, anti-Jew per se, which is interesting. A lot of these guys have different ethnic backgrounds and religions, but they're famous for that. And you're going to see that with a lot of the so-called conservative influencers. But what we realize going to see is that ultimately these are people that are controlled by Satan. They're Satanists. They are Masons. They are actually Kabbalists. They're half the time Jewish, and they're following Jews. And when I say Jews, I'm talking about the mafia, the Khazar mafia. A lot of these people you'll see, they're involved in gambling, they're involved in Bitcoin, they're involved in all these things that is being manipulated and controlled by the mafia. So when we start looking at all of them, you'll start to see that they're not just, well, let's just call them targets for right now. Now, I don't know how long Tate's going to be in jail, but the charges were serious because it wasn't just human trafficking, kidnapping, false imprisonment, and all that. It was also trafficking minors, sex with minors, filming sex with minors. Classic stuff. Now, one of the things that I learned with, of course, the whole Gary nonsense and the whole multi-level marketing bullshit and the whole thing that they try to use to attract these young people into these groups, these what turns out to be homosexual men's groups like Beacon or Fit and Fresh, is that, like I said, they treat the women like trash, to put it politely. And of course, they promote this. They promote the whole OnlyFans culture and people selling their body for sometimes serious money out there. And then they degrade these people at the same time, and yet they promote it. And they use this projection and this double-sided crap. But you see these parties that they throw where they try to get the young men on these party boats and they try to surround them with 100 or more, up to 200 women that are paid to be there. Now, whether or not these women are prostitutes, if you look at the videos, you can see that a lot of them appear to be Russian, Eastern European women that don't have proper paperwork, that don't want to be seen on camera because they don't want to be picked up or to be recognized. They're working. Who's supplying them? The mafia. Now, Gary is from Ohio, Cleveland, apparently. That's where his original crimes commenced. And now he's in Miami. Now, Miami is an interesting place because there's a lot of mafia there, but it's not just any mafia. It's Jewish mafia, Khazar mafia, Russian Jewish mafia. Of course, in Cleveland, where Gary comes from, there's a lot of that too. Gary claims to speak fluent Russian. He likes to threaten people by saying he's going to have Russian mafia back him up. Now, it is what it is, but what is that? That is our enemy. That Khazar mafia thing, that's the same thing that runs the Getty. That's the same thing that runs all this stuff. Ultimately, it's our enemy that we fight every day. And here they are, operating out in the open. Human trafficking, money laundering, and on and on. So, the other big place that they operate out of is Las Vegas. Apparently, part of the operation of the money laundering is actually involving sports betting and Bitcoin and converting Bitcoin into cash in Las Vegas involving sports books. So this is a big part of this operation. So apparently Cleveland, Miami, and Las Vegas, that's kind of a little triangle of this little operation. Of course, a lot of the people we're going to be talking about are based in Miami. Let's see. One of the guys that I want to focus on a little bit here tonight, and again, he's not the biggest one of all, but his name, they call him Myron Gaines. Myron Gaines, that's not his real name. I think he was born in 78. I don't want to do his number, but his real name is Amrou Fudl. Amrou, first name, Amrou, I don't know, I guess this is Arabic, and the last name Fudl, Fudl. Now, I can understand why he adopted the name Marvin Gaines as opposed to Ahmad Fudl, Amrou. But the thing is this guy Marvin, he claims to be, well, he's a major influencer. He claims to be the number one podcast channel for men's fitness or developing this kind of, let's just put it this way. It's pointed to men. A lot of these things are pointed to men, just like this Beacon thing. Anyway, These guys all network. You're going to see that by the end of this that they all network together. But Myron here used to be working for Homeland Security. And the particular branch of Homeland Security that he was involved in was dealing with immigrants, illegal immigrants, and human smuggling. Now, Myron, or shall I say Amru, supposedly lost that job, supposedly had to leave it. He supposedly worked there for 10 years, and he had to let it go, allegedly, because of his podcasting. Now, apparently his podcast, if you've seen any of his podcasts, and I try not to watch this stuff, of course, but I've seen him go completely insane. We'll go into some details about what he does, but apparently, to put it lightly, he says things on his podcast that are so bad that he had to quit his job with Homeland Security. Just say that at the get-go. Now, that could be an interesting cover story for somebody that was actually a Fed that was getting ready to go undercover with the mafia, which was actually controlling all these operations, because it is, of course, Intertel, the international mafia that we're ultimately talking about. Well, so he left this and becomes a men's fitness, whatever, coach. Now, one of the little beautiful things that we came up with, and I know this wasn't a secret because obviously if we came up with it, none of this is a secret, but one after the other, everybody that gets involved with us gets revealed. Kind of like when we took that Red Pill Aries guy, another lieutenant for Gary, who was running the, again, all-male social club known as Beacon. Turned out that he was a gay model for OnlyFans, and not only was he a gay model, his specialty was playing with his shit. He did scat. Well, obviously, that's not exactly a role model that you would expect to try to teach young men to be, masculine, to say the least, and successful. I mean, seriously, did you have to play with your shit to learn the secret of success? It's kind of interesting. But anyways, of course, it goes back to the Satan shit. So obviously, playing with your shit certainly coincides with Satanism. Now, that's when we found out that this guy, Myron Gaines, was also flaming gay. Now, his boyfriend, big strapping blonde dude, white guy, posted a bunch of pictures on his Facebook. Well, you know how Facebook will basically say, hey, 6 years have passed. Here's pictures of you and your friend. And it'll have all the pictures of him and Marvin that he put up there after so many years. And basically, the pictures were mostly 3 guys in bed. Marvin with a white guy kind of laying on his chest, either that or kissing him, and then some other white guy, nice biceps, no clothing, that kind of thing, real gay looking. And there's Marvin, and all these pictures of this guy hanging on Marvin, kissing him. Marvin seemed to enjoy it. Now, here's the other thing. It's really obvious to see when you see this so-called influencer that he's really comfortable around men, and he's really disparaging and rude and uncouth around women. So this is just a pattern that we're going to see being established. These so-called macho guys who are trying to represent the epitome of masculinity turning out to be, the gay guy on the bottom, the receiver, that kind of thing, which is, again, a theme with these Masons. I know you guys are listening to this stuff. Anyway, so why is that interesting? Well, okay, because this guy's part of this thing. He's very much like the Tates. He does the same thing. Now, Marvin, of course, is a Arab, we think. But if you listen to him talk, it would appear that he's positioning himself in the community as a brother. Marvin, he's Marvin Gaines, not Amru Fudel. Marvin, hey, Marvin. What's up, Jerome? I mean, seriously. He's an Arab. But what he does, and it's just like the last show. I think I told you, it's like I torture myself. I wonder, do I want to say this word? Because it's like this guy, he throws around the N-word, everything, and this, and that. Like, I don't hold my gun sideways like a dumbass motherfucking, N-word. This kind of thing. Over and over and over and over. And because of his appearance, he gets away with this stuff. And yet he's extremely degrading and also at the same time trashes white people, trashes Jews, trashes whatever. Reoccurring theme. Now, the same could be said about the Tates, both of them, Andrew and Tristan. Now, when the Tates started getting in trouble in Romania, they had to come up with a plan, and the plan was basically to go in the street and have a little protest and try to say that Israel was bad and save the Palestinians and all this kind of thing. He jumped on his bandwagon and got on his bully pulpit and started claiming to be a man of the people and anti-Jew. And it's all the Jews blaming Jews. Now, I'm going to do a biography of all these guys, but I kind of want to get through a few of these names. There's a few other people that are very similar. Obviously, if you go on some of these rants on, Twitter Spaces, I mean, you've certainly got people like Alex Jones, but he's more mainstream. You're not going to hear him bad-mouthing Jews and stuff. But there are other guys out there, like, for instance, there's one of them named Dan Bilzerian. I want to talk about him in a little bit more detail, just like the Tates and just like another guy, TimKim.com. Dan Bilzerian, he's got some traits that are very interesting, but one of the things that he is a very bad Jew basher. Again, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong here. I'm saying that is once you learn who these guys are and who they really work for and how they're all connected and how it's just one big mafia, you're going to think twice about the things that they're saying. And usually when you're dealing with these Satanists, you're going to learn. I mean, obviously, Gary, if you haven't learned this from Gary, you're never going to learn it. But they tend to say stuff that is the exact opposite of the truth. I mean, my God, they're calling me a pedophile. This motherfucker's calling me a pedophile. Anyway, obviously it doesn't bother me, but it's like, really? Wow. The projection, and I've learned that they project so much. So when you hear this projection, just like Joseph Goebbels said, accuse your enemy of that of which you are guilty. So clearly, this is their mantra. Now, let's talk about, let's see, let's start with the Tates. Before I go too much into the other guy, screw him, we'll talk about the Tates. Let's see. Born in 1986, American-British social media personality, businessman, and former professional kickboxer. As a divisive influencer, he has amassed 9.9 million followers on X. He was the third most Googled person in 2023. Wow. He has been dubbed the king of toxic masculinity as part of the manosphere described both right-wing and far-right. Again, this is all bullshit. Now, you could go and look at his early life, his kickboxing career. Let's see, he's got a big brother. He was on Big Brother, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's got a brother, Tristan, of course, who's basically guilty of the same thing. But I wanted to kind of cut down to the good stuff that's going on right now. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go down to some of the start with, the criminal stuff. Before I do that, I'll just say that he was raised Christian, here it says right here, but later became an atheist. But now he identifies a Christian again. Sounds like bullshit. And he tithed money to the Romanian Orthodox Church on a monthly basis. After a film of him praying at a mosque in Dubai went viral. Okay, so he's clearly, let's see. He's been accused of converting to Islam, but at the same time, he gives money to the church. So he's kind of like a Donald Trump in respect to that. All right, let's see. Well, they're trying to say they tried to say he had lung cancer. Turns out that was BS. But okay, his criminal investigation started in 2015. Now, I should mention 2015, this is the same time that the other guy was having a relationship with the man. Okay, the other guy being Myron Gaines, Amu. Okay, Tate was arrested 2015 after complaints were filed by two women accusing him of gang rape and assault. He was again arrested on suspicion of rape in December. The first one was July, next one was December. after an accuser presented messages sent by Tate, which he stated, "I love raping you," quote unquote. Of course, he denies all these things. He denies any rape or physical abuse. Yeah, I got a feeling he's really small down there. I just got a feeling. It's my intuition right now. All right, it goes on and on. There's a 4-year investigation. More and more women. Blah blah blah. Okay. In 2024, Westminster. Well, let's see. There was a European arrest warrant issued against Tate and Tristan. Let's see, charges based on allegation of sexual aggression from 2012 to 2015. The warrant was part of an ongoing investigation into the allegations of rape and human trafficking alongside Romanian authorities. Now, why is this interesting? Okay, first of all, Romania is next to Ukraine. There's a lot of human trafficking going on. So when you see that all these people are connected, you're going to understand why they're connected. Let's see, according to lawyers, Aiden Ross. Let's see, who's that other guy? Let's see, American Internet personality. Another one. Okay, we're not going to get to Aiden Ross, but apparently he's rich. But he's another one of those guys. Let's see. Let's skip to something a little closer, because obviously he's in jail right now for this. Okay, 2022 in Romania. U.S. Embassy received a report that a citizen was being held against her will in a property owned by the Tate brothers in Romania. The Romanian police raided the home in a nearby webcam studio belonging to the Tates, where they discovered 4 women. 2 of them, the American and another Romanian woman, told the police they were being held against their will. This, of course, started an investigation into human trafficking and rape. The 2 brothers were interrogated and released at the time. They were heard as witnesses rather than suspects. Doesn't that sound familiar? Kind of like P. Diddy type thing, how they'd get away with this shit. Let's see, December 29, 22, the police arrested both Tate brothers and 2 women, all 4 suspected of human trafficking and forming an organized crime group. That's what we're talking about right here, organized crime, which is much bigger than just these 4 people with Tate here. The Tates were accused of having recruited women through the lover boy method, which consists of misrepresenting one's intention to commit to a romantic relationship and forcing them to create explicit content for websites like OnlyFans as part of an organized crime group. They were alleged to have formed in early 2021, but they were only able to identify 6 potential victims. Of course, he drummed up some kind of bullshit involving Greta Thunberg to try to divert attention. Let's see. Anyway, it goes on and on and on. Rape and human trafficking charges. Let's see. This is the most recent. On June 13th, well, no, this is not recent. This is 2023. They adjusted the charges of human trafficking to human trafficking in continued form, a more serious charge after they identified more victims. Let's see, let's just cut down. Online harassment. The Tate brothers confirmed that a cease and desist letter was sent after the accusers threatened to sue her and her parents for $300 million over defamatory statements. Well, that sounds like Trump. I'm sorry. 2 of the accused reportedly went into hiding after being targeted by an online harassment campaign. Wow, that sounds like Gary. Describing it as an attempt to scare them into silence by a troll army. Wow, doesn't that sound like what we're dealing with? Yeah. Anyway, this is big. Okay, it's pretty big. Now, I'm a little disappointed in the people out there I know on Twitter, etc., and even in my group that said they're innocent. They didn't do it. Are you even familiar with any of the videos that they've made? There's a reason why they're rude to these children, these women, and they treat them like whores, and they've got them running around half naked. They all do the same thing. There's a reason why these men turn out to be gay. Have you seen the picture of Andrew Tate sitting there in some sort of Speedos on a chair smoking a hookah? Did you notice in the photo there's nothing between his legs? Now, either he's sitting on his stuff or he's got his tuck down really well. But either way, it's not touched up. There's something wrong here. Maybe too many kicks during kickboxing. I don't know. Seems to be a reoccurring thing with these guys, but they are definitely woman haters, and they are definitely part of an organized crime network. Now, let's look at some other people that might be involved in this stuff that seem to. Now, I'll tell you, when I had my people digging into all the NFT and the blockchain business involved with the Masons and Lazy Taco and GG33 or whatever, and all this bullshit, we kind of came to some conclusions real quick that it smelled like human trafficking, because we're familiar with human trafficking. We know how they use crypto and blockchain to hide this stuff when they launder it, and how the sales and transactions involving humans in human trafficking often uses these methods as a technique for trying to avoid prosecution or trial. Now, obviously, that doesn't work, and obviously these criminals do that on purpose. Here's another one, Kim.com. Let's talk about Kim.com here. Now, Kim.com is another internet personality, but what he was mostly famous for was being a hacker. He's, a German-Finnish hacker. He's this really fat dude. But he calls himself, his actual name was Schmitz, Kim Schmitz, I believe it was. Yeah, Kim Schmitz, and he changed his name to Kim.com. Ah, cute. But he was busted way back when in the 90s for trafficking stolen phone cards, computer fraud, data espionage, all kinds of fun stuff. He was working out of Thailand. He got deported back to Germany. He founded all sorts of different businesses like Mega Upload, and this, of course, was seized. But typically, a lot of this stuff that he was doing was being used for money laundering, racketeering, and wire fraud. Copyright infringement, like your music sites and that was nothing compared to what was really going on here. It's all about the wire fraud and the money laundering. Interesting when these guys all hook up together when you talk about money laundering and wire fraud, and then you move in human trafficking. Let's see what happened. We don't need to get into his early life. What was he? He was born in Germany. He's politically from West Germany. His mother was Finnish, Turku. Interesting. What if she's a Nazi? Let's see. Legal investigation. Well, let's see. What's he doing right now? We want to talk about his Mega Upload arrest? Not really. Supreme Court, media reaction, internet party movement. He actually, this is interesting because it's just like Gary, but he actually wanted to run for president in what was it? They say 2017? No, I don't have the correct date for me, but yeah, he was another one of those guys. All right, he made a big noise over the Seth Rich conspiracies, and one of the things he's most famous for right now is for supporting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, obviously, everything he says here is true about the United States being responsible for spread of Nazism in Ukraine, and the attacks on Russian-speaking minorities was what led, and the biolabs, and that's all true. But he's also been accused of so-called anti-Semitism. Now, what was it that made him call it? He bought a book of Mein Kampf, which is My Life, from Adolf Hitler's, and apparently this was a very expensive book. He said it was an investment, and they didn't like it. He got in trouble for that. But the point is he's one of these people, of course, that's very vocal, online, and involved. Now, when the Tates were arrested, which is really funny because after my little war on Gary, of course, you know that when they started the attack on Gary, a lot of his pages and stuff got taken down. But once I realized the pattern that was forming with the human trafficking and the internet, crypto and all this crap, blockchain, the use of influencers to, well, make it all acceptable, I figured out that that's really what the Tates were going on. Of course, the Tates, they've been accused of this stuff flat out. But once you get a good look at Gary's operation, and Malcolm's or Myron's operation, and you realize just how bad these people are, and you hear about some of the stuff that they say in some of these spaces that we're going to talk about, you know something's going on, because I came out basically on the internet and said that that's what was going on, that Gary and the Tates were going to be involved together in human trafficking. Oh, it gets even thicker. I'll tell you even more about this stuff. And then 2 days later, Tates are getting arrested. Now, if you've been on the Twitter watching some of the interaction that's going on, I mean, first of all, you know that I attack pretty large names, and they don't usually respond. You know, guys like Gordon Getty and, you know, Gavin Newsom, that generally they don't respond. But of course, Gary and his minions, they're all over this. They want to get involved. And the latest thing that Gary's done, as a result, I believe, of obviously exposing his contract, which he believes is punishable by death for having that exposed. I also exposed his boy Myron here as a homosexual, a closet homosexual, who's not this tough, homeboy, whatever you want to call it, gangster, but actually has a white boy kissing on him. He's probably, like I said, on the receiving end to a big white boy, big strapping white boy. So that's not a good look, especially when you consider his, what has he got? He's got a, a slogan. And the slogan for his group, which Myron runs, which is called Castle Club, their slogan is turning simps to pimps. Now, I made a meme, and half of the meme was his advertising for the Castle Club, and the other was just a little quickie montage of Myron and his boyfriend, and a picture of Gary and Myron. Myron standing behind Gary like he's looking like he's just ready to shove it up Gary's rear end. And of course, Gary's looking like he wants to take it. But anyway, I think this was really pissed off Gary. It could have been the fact that I was also telling everybody that he married a prostitute and he's got like at least 4 kids that belong to probably at least four different men, customers. This is all true. But he's very angry. So anyway, he put out death threats. But before he put out the death threats on me, he had been putting out death threats apparently for a long time and trying to show off his mafia credentials and threatening people with his fluent use of the mafia, I meant to say Russian language, and his Jewishness and his connection to the Russian mafia. And of course, when you say Russian mafia, we're talking about Jewish mafia. But anyway, so he had threatened this one guy, had basically posted it on Twitter and then removed it like 11 minutes later, where he offered $20,000 US for somebody to take out this guy, Matt. And we forward that. Now, I wondered whether or not I should mention this, but at this point it doesn't really matter, especially since the Tates have been arrested. But it turns out that there's a huge-ass FBI international investigation going on to this and this whole human trafficking business. Now, yeah, we reported Gary to the FBI. And, of course, Gary, he lives in Florida, Miami area. So that was naturally who we went to. But for whatever reason, got referred to agents in Cleveland. It's like, Cleveland? That's kind of weird. Who does that? One of the trolls was saying, the FBI doesn't do that. He was actually a spy, one of Gary's spies. But I said, yeah, the FBI, you can argue with them if you want. In fact, here's their number. You can call them. But yeah, there was an active agent working on a Gary case in Cleveland. Now, all kinds of information and depositions and screen saves and recordings and stuff were turned over to this particular guy. And he says, yeah, this is all great. We're definitely going to investigate all this stuff. But do you have anything else maybe involving human trafficking? Huh? Human trafficking? Funny you should say that. Because, all this blockchain crap and everything that he's doing and all these, hookers that he's hiding. And hiring, and these women that apparently are trying to hide from the camera because they're not legal, that apparently are, barely speaking English Europeans, as Myron likes to call them. Eastern Europeans, more than likely. Well, anyway, yeah, apparently there's something going on here. Now, obviously, a lot of people could come into the country without a green card as a visitor and never leave and then become trapped. And they can also come in and have their documents taken, like their passports, this sort of thing, taken by guys like, human traffickers, like, I don't know, Gary or Myron or one of the Tate brothers. Now, I also thought it was funny that while we were doing all the Gary research and looking into all his little capos and various different associates, tracing back his operation to Vegas to look at how he, washes his money, launders his money, we kept seeing these things like trips to Romania. Like, what's that all about? Here we have somebody, not Gary, but one of his lieutenants making a trip to fucking Romania where, the Tates are. Why this connection? What's going on here? Something's got sneaky. Now, obviously, I have to deal with these guys one at a time. Gary's my focus, but I realized if I wanted to hurt Gary's money stream, well, I needed to take out this Myron Gaines guy who claims to be this big shot, gay man's, I don't know what you want to call him, model man. Anyway, Gary being the manager of this fresh and fit character, I figured this might hurt Gary's money stream. But little did I know that it turns out this stuff gets thicker and thicker and thicker. Now, like I said earlier, when Tate went to jail, almost immediately there was a several Spaces event on X. Now, bear in mind, a lot of people have accused Elon, of being involved in all this promotion of anti-Semitism and all this crap. And technically, yes, he is. And why is that? Because he's another one of these influencers. But we'll get to that because, again, it's all one big happy mafia. Now, so everybody brought my attention. I see this thing all day on Spaces, and there's this space. And let's see, who is being hosted by a Arabic guy who's pretty well known out there with, the anti-Israel stuff. And of course, the theme of this whole event was that these poor, innocent Tate brothers were being persecuted because of their anti-Israel, anti-Zionism stance. Okay, this is what everybody's saying. And you look at who is in there being part of this discussion. There was quite a few big names. Obviously, Dr. Loomis. I mean, she's a big anti-Israel type. A lot of these people I respect. But then I realize they're all in this room together. Who else was in that room? Candace Owens. Who else was in that room? Gary, the numbers guy. Mr. Satan himself. Mr. part of the big human trafficking Russian Jewish mafia thing. Part of the investigation by the FBI into this big thing. Talking about his compadre he's very close to that is in jail right now in Romania for human trafficking, and he's trying to defend it while he's also under investigation for human trafficking, which might suggest that all the other people in that Spaces event might be involved. Maybe not directly with human trafficking, although several of them look like they are, and I will discuss that. But some of them are maybe just tools of Mossad. Now, there's so many of them out there that are obvious. Tommy Robinson's a good example. Totally a tool of Mossad. He works for Israel. Now, when you think Mossad, why would Mossad be promoting anti-Semitism? Why? Well, first of all, this is no different than the Pharisees throwing open the gate, allowing the Romans or the Babylonians to come in and destroy the temple and kill everybody, or supporting somebody and creating somebody like Hitler to do the same thing, only kill all the non-Zionist, non-satanic Jews, in a Holocaust. You're going to sacrifice to Satan because ultimately it's genocide. These fuckers want genocide. And yes, they do want to kill Jews. Now, why would Jews want to kill Jews? Once again, that's what they do. That's what these guys do. That's what the Chabad Khazarian mafia does. That's what they've always done because they are wicked, evil Satanists. And you realize what we're dealing with Satanists, you realize the underlying satanic theme of all this, and you have to understand why it's so complex and why it's so wicked and why it depends on blood. Let's see. Now, Kim.com, of course, he was there also. Why was he bitching? Well, gosh, you think maybe it's because he's a Bitcoin guy? He's all about setting up these means of transferring money, wire fraud, this kind of thing. We already know that Gary transfers money probably via Bitcoin to Vegas. It's withdrawn, it's put into gambling operations, converted into cash, paid out in a very sneaky way. There was another guy that was in this spaces defending Tate, and he's kind of well known out there also. He's even bigger than Tate. Maybe not, I'd have to look at it. Anyway, this guy's name is Dan Bilzerian. Now you look at this guy, first thing I think is, what is this guy? Is this guy ex-Navy SEAL or some shit? You know, I mean, he's got this physique. I mean, you see his whole body, you realize it's like, wow, the legs don't look proportionate to the top. He's got this ridiculously, you know, well, it's just, I've seen various different pictures of him. He's got, I'm not going to go as, let's just say he's a character. He's a Derek Strongjaw type guy with lots of muscles and really broad shoulders and what have you. He's Armenian apparently, but he's only 5'7", which you kind of notice right away. Anyway, what's his big thing? Well, his big thing is that he won the World Series of Poker main event. Wait a minute. He played in the 2008 World Series Poker, finishing at 108th place. What? He was once sued by the estate of Bradley Rudderman over winnings from a poker game, which were alleged to have been paid with funds from an illegal Ponzi scheme. Uh-oh. Okay, that's a clue. Let's see. The same year, he defended Alex Rodriguez publicly against accusations that he had gambled illegally, claiming that he was present when the alleged gambling event had taken place and Rodriguez was not present. Let's see. He posted an unconfirmed claim that he had won $10.8 million from a single night of playing poker. Can't remember money laundering. He's claimed to have won $50 million throughout the year, adding that he doesn't play against professionals anymore, and the most ever he's lost in a single session is $3.6 million. Okay, he also sells electronic cigarettes, vapes, which the company is called Ignite. Now, the logo for this is basically a Baphomet skull with horns and all that. And when I say Baphomet, I'm talking about like a ram's head or something of this nature. But that's his scheme. His company reportedly lost over $50 million, mostly on marketing and office rental expenses. Now, when you say marketing and office rental experiences, here's what that means. That means he took all that money and he used it to rent super yachts, hookers, prostitutes, gaudy parties, crazy toys, jets, private jet. And of course, all of this is filmed. All of this is used to try to convey opulence and grandiose wealth, as an influencer does. So that was his thing. So basically, he's one of these people that, again, I'm not going to point fingers at any candidates, but he likes to flaunt this stuff and basically make it look like he's really rich. Now here there is some controversy here because, not aside from the fact that his father was very famous. I mean, most of his money came from, let's see, his son. He's the son of a corporate takeover specialist, Paul Bazarian. basically a corporate raider. So he made his father, as a corporate raider, made shitloads of money. And let's see, he studied 4 years at University of Florida as business and criminology. Criminology. Now, why do you suppose he took criminology? Interesting, huh? But anyway, the point is that he did get involved in issues in Armenia with their neighbor Azerbaijan. And it's kind of hard for me to understand because he got in trouble by Armenia for being in territory that was essentially, I believe, under the control of Azerbaijan, almost as if he was supporting the opposite side, which of course is very strange. Now, you could say Russia right now is supporting Azerbaijan, and the United States and the EU are supporting Armenia. So that's strange. But when I look at that, I think this is interesting because this, again, is a hotbed for human smuggling. Let's see, what else has he got? He was banned from a Miami nightclub for kicking a model in the face during a brawl. He says that the other women attacked him. Okay, let's see what else. He was involved in another legal matter with a porn actress. He was featured. Okay, now, again, this is going to give you a kind of a flavor for what this guy's like, but he was in a photo shoot for Hustler, I assume because of his physique. And anyway, his job was to throw some girl off the roof of a house and into a pool. That was what the photo shoot involved. And apparently he missed. She fell short. She broke her foot. And she asked this guy for a bunch of money. Big lawsuit ensued. Bilzerian said it was not his fault. It was an act of God. Let's see what else. He was also arrested in the LAX, Los Angeles International, on unrelated bomb-making charges. Oh, boy. He was arrested as a fugitive warrant from Nevada and was booked at LAPD's Pacific Division. He had been charged with violating a law and making a crime to possess an explosive or incendiary device or with the intent to manufacture it. Now, I can understand that could be all sorts of things because I've certainly had stuff like that in my safe. Let's see. He also pleaded no contest to a negligently failing to extinguish a fire in the open. He was fined. Disputed wealth claims. Okay, well, I'm not going to get into that. Two's a liar. But again, here was a guy defending Tate amongst all these other guys. Now, again, when I see Bilzerian, Gary Grinberg, Tim Pool types, Kim.com, and Myron Gaines all trying to defend this guy, I see a connection. I know they're all connected. I know they all support each other. I know they're all part of the same mafia. I know they're involved in the human smuggling, just like they're involved in the degradation of women, just like they're involved in the corruption of young men, just like they're all closet homosexuals. Any one of these things is heinous. But they're doing it for Satan. They're doing it for Israel. They're doing it for the powers that run Israel, the dark powers, the mafia. And at the same time, they're all spewing extremely harsh anti-Jew propaganda. And each one of them, again, is controlled by Mossad. It's kind of like the Nazis in Ukraine, controlled by Jewish guys. It should be a little confusing, but when you realize they're not just trying to make money, they're not just trying to smuggle humans to make money, they're not trying to destroy the country the humans are coming from, they're not just trying to destroy the country they're being sent to, just corrupting the youth and what have you. Even the using the women to make the pornography, again, is all part of this big plan to corrupt, to promote this. And at the same time, you'll hear guys like Gary saying it's bad. Again, this projection. It's like calling these women hookers and then marrying a hooker. All very confusing. Now, I'm not going to waste too much more time on this. Let's see how much. Oh, yeah, we've already gone over time. But the point is that this is no different than what we do every day, which, of course, is fighting Satan. It's no different. And obviously, I have to take measures to increase my security because these people are so damn crazy and they will hire, who knows what. But at the same time, I know there's nothing they can do. I'm divinely protected. If you want to help pay for it, here it comes. Sorry. No, seriously, there's things coming up in the future that I would certainly like to do that might require me having an extra large entourage. So any donations that you could have that I can store away would be great. I did an event in Los Angeles a little while back, and you guys helped me out. And a lot of those funds that you helped me with were used to provide lodging for my entourage and my friends that I have coming to the event. So we're going to be doing that soon, and this means venturing out to the public, right into the heart of the beast, the belly of the beast. And again, no fear, obviously, but again, I'd like to be proactive. So if you guys want to help out with that, my PayPal is StephenKelly714@yahoo.com. Say friend or family, or I will send it back. Let's see what else. I'll just say this real quick. Now, Gary, of course, has been saying all kinds of, calling me a pedophile. He's been talking to my children and stuff. I know this is nonsense, but there's really no depth that I guess what I want to say is that I know that I lashed back with some pretty crude comebacks, but the bottom line is that none of this stuff really bothers me. And again, I'm 66 years old. I mean, my God, what are you going to do to scare me? But I just want you guys to understand that there really is nothing they can do, and we are going to put them away. And as near as I can tell, judging by what I've learned from the FBI, it may take them a little while to close this case, but this is pretty darn big. Now, I know you could say, well, this organization's corrupt, it's all corrupt, but who knows? Because you have to understand that the enemy has this tendency to throw their own people under the bus when the heat gets a little too hot. So it's just like me complaining about Tate. Next thing you know, he's in jail. I'm not surprised because I have a history of doing that with these people. So if there's a reason why Gary's not in jail yet, well, really, probably because it's much bigger than Gary, and his little death threats are nothing compared to the human trafficking and crap that he's involved in, money laundering. Obviously, they're all involved in the sports betting bullshit, and obviously that's a big front for money laundering and mafia activity. So anyway, guys, you should all be proud that you're involved and you put in such good work to help us stamp out these little bitches. And I know, Gary, you're listening to my last show. God, some of this stuff seriously, there's so much stuff that I'm not going to help you do your job, but damn, boy, you're stupid. Anyway. All right, guys, I want to, first of all, say thank you for tuning in. We have a halfway decent amount of listeners. And Netherlands, of course. How you doing? I'm going to let you go. I'll see you next week, hopefully. And God willing, I'll see you on Twitter. I'll see you in the Telegram group, which is, again, OccupyTheGetty/Stephen D. Kelly. If you want to email me for whatever reason, law17gun@AOL.com. And again, if you want to learn about being a Jedi, you want to get a copy of the book or any information whatsoever, please let me know. If you want to do an interview, same thing. And of course, if you want to see me do more interviews, you really need to talk to some of these, podcasters and have me go on. Oh my God, I look at Andrew Tate's podcast, Fresh and Fit. He puts up a video, he gets like 300,000 hits, whatever. But it's like everybody it's all the same crew. They're all promoting each other. It's all these it's like promoting the Tates or whatever. Okay. It's all mafia crap. Okay. So you got to realize, people, that there is no place for this stuff in polite society. And even though it's become such a large part of our culture, it needs to go away. All right. Anyway, so the best way to do that, of course, is get rid of Satan's influencers. That's where we're at right now. All right. So with that, I'm going to end it. And I'm going to thank you for being here again. And I'm going to remind you that this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show. And we are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. obviously this is a lot of complex information, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time to be involved. I mean, certainly it's much larger than we thought. That's the real bottom line here. And at the same time, the work we're doing to take down these people and expose these guys, it's obviously helping the, well, let's just say law enforcement people do their work, and it's encouraging them to do their work better. So nothing wrong with what we're doing, because ultimately ending a little human trafficking is never a bad thing. Okay, it's right along with the entire Occupy the Getty mission. All right. So I want to commend you guys for all your hard work and remind you to be brave. No, I don't mean that. Anyway. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Again, thanks for being here. Okay. All right. Again, my name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com, and it's now 7:07. It's still August 22nd, 2024, which of course is a 202. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you in the group. All right. Good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.